LinkedIn is a very strict platform. You just can't get away with, spamming people,
Sure.
with having like negative comments. If you read the rules and regulations for LinkedIn, there are quite a few. And LinkedIn will ban you, and LinkedIn will take your account away if you're spamming people in terms of adding a lot more connections. They see that suspicious activity. They see that you're commenting on things that are not according to the platform. This is again, like, I think a lot of people are not aware of this.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
This is brand new to me.
Yes, exactly. It's happened to me. I got my account got restricted. That's a topic for another time. But,
Sure.
But yes, they're fiercely protective on the kind of language and the kind of tone that you use on LinkedIn.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Hope It Helps. And I have a very special guest on the show today, Miss Nehha. Bhhatiaa. Nehha, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for your time. What better way to kick off the new year, guys, with someone who is an expert in personal branding and LinkedIn. Nehha, so I've been following your content for a while. And first of all, congratulations on completing year one of, doing your own thing. I'm in, I think, year 2 now. So I understand a lot of the posts you talked about, the frustrations, the learnings. And I'm like, man, this is literally me and still me, I think it's an ever evolving process and you're going to keep learning. I was really excited to have you on the show because especially nowadays, I think the work you do in personal branding and particularly on LinkedIn, I think finally in 2025 or end of 2024, people started to wake up and realize like how important LinkedIn is compared to, the Instagram and TikTok. But for your business and for your professional, let's call it personal brand, it is unbelievably important. LinkedIn has been my strongest platform for years. That's how I've found 90% of my guests, including, that's how we got connected and yourself. Yes. So I've seen the power of it. And I think people are finally starting to wake up to it. But for today, I wanted to touch on LinkedIn, your past experience in luxury and so on. But before we get into everything, Nehha, why don't you give all of us a little bit of background about yourself and we'll take it from there.
So I'm a third culture kid. I grew up in several cities across the world. I've traveled quite a bit, 50 countries now.
50, wow, that's amazing. 50s. That's sick. Okay.
I grew up in Saudi and then Milan and Singapore and now Dubai, which I call home.
Mm-hmm. And so you grew up traveling around the world, and you said I watched the podcast you were on, I think 2 years ago, and you were talking about how because you had such a culturally diverse upbringing, that one of your gifts is your ability to connect with people. So I'm curious, at what point did you realize you had that gift? And once you did, how have you started to hone, that skill?
To be fair, I was never very confident. When
Really?
I was growing up, yes. Okay. I was actually a fat kid.
Okay. Okay. We all were.
I wasn't very confident, and it took. I think I was a late bloomer.
Okay.
I started my business, very late in life as well, but it took me a few years of kind of just failing until I think I got it right. I did a lot of experimentation. I interacted with, I hired a lot of coaches, a lot of mentors.
Okay.
I have 2 master degrees. So I did everything that I could to get from level
1 to 2, absolutely.
1 to 2, yes.
Yeah.
And in terms of building relationships, I think when you move around that much and you're around, so many people with such cultural diversity. I grew up in Saudi, now in Dubai. I think this country has close to more than 192 nationalities.
Yeah,
right?
something like that.
Yeah, so you kind of like adapt to the cultural diversity which is in and around you.
Yeah. Just to touch on the coaches aspect quite quickly. So I recently started working with a coach as well.
Okay.
And once upon a time, I wanted to get into that field and get into that world, personal development.
You're still good, actually. Podcast coaching.
Well, yeah.
Because not a lot of people are confident about,
That's actually true. That's a great point. We're going to add that to the services list. So what I realized working with a coach is so far, that's why I'm curious to hear your experience, is And I love my coach because he really like pushes me in the sense that I might answer a question and he'd be like, that sounds like nice, but there's no value or depth, behind all these fancy words that you used. So when it came to, my positioning, my branding, how I think of my podcast and the service and message I'm trying to give out. So I'm curious for you, what was working when you worked with a coach? What did it unlock for you in terms of like from a mental perspective, something maybe you weren't aware of or you weren't really clear about?
So I actually have 2 degrees in marketing.
Okay.
But I never worked in marketing prior. Like for a lot of years, I was doing sales. Then I did a customer experience, account management, a lot of different things. But in COVID, I launched my own health coaching business.
That's true, yeah.
And I failed at that, by the way.
That's fine.
First 6 months, I actually gave up on that.
Sure.
So during COVID, I had moved from Dubai to Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
And it was really tough, as it was for everybody at that time. So as a business owner, you have to start marketing yourself. And I started, marketing myself, making, I used Instagram then, started making videos and, started putting myself out there, stories and, newsletters and all the rest of it. And I started getting noticed from agencies around, and they couldn't obviously like have people fly in, so they kind of like hired me to work with them in marketing, and that's how I actually got started.
Okay.
And then I realized that I needed a coach to kind of like teach me these, some of the basic things, because what you learn at university and real life is completely different. And it was, of course, like health coaching. So it was, again, something very different from my degree in fashion and luxury.
Yeah. No, of course. So
Yeah.
I'm curious because now with your agency, with Magnetique, it's marketing and personal branding focused. What did you learn in your experience launching the health business that you've taken into this current business? Because sometimes, so just to give you some context, so I am a licensed hypnotherapist, and I learned that during COVID too. There was nothing to do, and I'm like, all right, I guess I'll do this. And I worked in it for a while, but it just never gave me the fulfillment or satisfaction I wanted from trying to help people, because everyone changes at their own pace, at their own time. And I wanted you to come in, have a session and be fixed after.
Yeah.
And I think I was a bit naive to think, I could do something like that. I definitely helped, but it didn't give me what I wanted. So that's why when I found podcasting, this felt a lot more, it just resonated with me a lot more. So I'm curious, how did that experience play into what you do right now?
I realized you have to show up online every single day.
Yeah.
You just have to show up consistently and build your presence. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's Instagram, it's TikTok, it's LinkedIn, it's Twitter, it's YouTube. You just have to keep showing up and build your network, build your thought leadership, build an audience, and everything will fall into place. And this is one thing that I see and I want to educate people on.
Yeah.
And change how things are done.
Yeah. So what do you see when you talk about showing up? Is it because I just finished reading a book, Gary Vee's book called Day Trading Attention.
Yes. Oh, I love that's one of my favorite books.
By the way,
I love Gary Vee.
He's amazing. And it blew my mind because you talked about showing up and marketing, and throughout my podcasting career and the business as well, that was an area that I neglected. I thought if I just showed up week after week and produced one episode, that would be enough to build, my audience, my following. But what I learned in my experience, and even like reading that book, just like doubled down on it, is it's a daily thing, and you have to constantly not only be showing up, but be showing up in the right way, to the right platform, with the right message. I finished reading that book, Nehha, and I sat. I'm like, oh shit! This is so much. I just got now the volume game kind of balanced, if that. I can still do more. And then when I read that, I'm like, oh, I haven't even scratched the surface. So what are your thoughts when it comes to showing up? How should we be showing up? What's the mindset we should be having towards that?
So it's important not just to be visible, but to be memorable.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
So it's how you show up every
Okay.
single day. It's what message are you putting out in the world? And what's your purpose at the end? We all have a purpose. Are you living authentically to your purpose? And when your audience sees that you are, they automatically, you know, they automatically come together to form your community. And this is what we're doing here, right? We're forming communities.
Sure.
And that's so powerful because when you have your community, it helps you fulfill your purpose.
Okay, so I've had someone I've spoken to someone on the podcast talking about community. I think a lot of time one of the misconceptions about community is the power of a community is made up of the people who are in it. But what I've learned and through my conversations with people about this, they said it's about, yes, the people are important, but it's about the engagement, the support, the communication. And like you just said, are we all here under this same message? And I think that's something very important.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I guess in your case, with the community that you're building, what is your purpose? What's the message that we're all trying to, rally under with your work?
So to give you a background, one step back, I quit corporate because I was just sick and tired of how things were done. I felt a lot of the times it was very old school way of marketing. And I really wanted to change how things were done. Example, one of my old bosses, he always pushed me in putting like company content first, as opposed to like pushing him in front of the audience. Well, he's absolutely brilliant, and I just thought that just wasn't the right way of doing things. I said, you need to show your face. You need to be the face behind the company, and not just putting the company first. So I really want to bring awareness onto things like that and change the way marketing is done, one company at a time. Change the way how people feel about personal branding, because a lot of companies now are they're so scared of employees promoting themselves, which is actually backfiring for them, because at the end, it's if your employees are growing their personal brands, your company is moving forward in the right way.
Interesting. So I'm curious, because that's the first time I've heard that companies would be scared of that. What are they, from your perspective, what are they afraid of?
The competitors poaching their employees.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
That's one of the big reasons.
Okay.
And they just don't, I don't know. I can't really answer that question, to be honest. I think they just don't want the employees to feel powerful or feel appreciated. I hope this is not going to be controversial, but
No, it's your opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. 100% fine.
yeah, and companies I think are just scared, or they I feel they don't know how things are done in the new way of marketing.
Do you think that because now everyone talks about AI and like all these kind of things, and marketing is changing? A lot of the conversations I've had with guests on my show, especially recently around marketing, a lot of them have been saying something similar to you: the importance of like creating emotional business content, kind of like what you're talking about, showing the person behind the company. And that's kind of why podcasts have also grown, because you're seeing the human element of the person who could be like a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. But now I get to know you as you. What do you think about? What do you like? And that creates that emotional connection, which down the line might lead to more business for you.
People buy from people they know, like, and trust.
There you go. No, 100%. And so just to backtrack a little bit, Nehha, because I know you come from the world of fashion.
Yeah, fashion and luxury.
Fashion and luxury, exactly. So you mentioned that world was something you were always interested in, and that took you to, being the only foreigner in Milan getting your master's, working in Singapore, in Dubai. Even when you moved here, you were working for a lifestyle or customer experience lifestyle brand too. So, but you said from a young age, that's always, you knew that, fashion and luxury was an area you wanted to go into. So I'm just curious, what drew you to that when you were young? Like, what was it? You're like, oh, this is, you knew this is the area I want to get into.
So, like I told you, I was never confident, and I think I just wanted, as this fat, chubby girl who was not very confident, I think I just wanted to escape that, you know. And I used to like see these models, you know. I don't know if you still have it. You still have FTV. I think you still do.
Oh yeah, FTV. Wow.
I used to see like all these models and all these beautiful clothes and all these photographers and these beautiful things. And I used to think that I want to be that one day. I want to, I want to experience that one day. I want to be as thin and I want to be beautiful and I want to travel. That's all I wanted to do. And I think it comes from a place of not being confident and not feeling good about yourself.
Yeah.
But I think that's a very common problem when you're younger as a teenager, right?
100%. Well, there's people still struggling with that problem now.
Yeah. So that's where it came from. And
Yeah.
I did take steps along the way to make that happen.
Yeah. So, okay. So you worked in that world for quite a while. And now you have your own business, helping people with personal branding.
Yes.
And I think specifically on LinkedIn, but given your experience for what it sounds like, you can help in many other platforms too. I've noticed personal branding was not even a thing like a couple of years ago. That word wasn't even a word, but now you're spammed on LinkedIn and everything, with like personal branding, everyone's talking about it. So I was thinking yesterday when I was like doing my research, I'm like, why now is personal branding become such a, like the next hot thing that we should, be looking at or working on?
Like Gary Vee says, attention is the new currency.
Yeah, yeah, true, 100%.
I think it was always there. It's just that there's a lot more awareness on it at the moment. A lot more people are willing to try new things to promote themselves, willing to try new ideas, willing to try new avenues to grow their business and to grow their brands. To be honest, I hadn't even heard of, I had heard of it, but it wasn't my intention, to be very honest, to be, to have this agency even a year ago. But what started off as an experiment, because I really wanted to change how things were done in the world of marketing, I started posting on LinkedIn just once a week. I did close to 60 events all of last year. Yeah,
wow.
It was
60
events.
Damn.
It was a busy year.
That's
it was
a busy year
last year. And I started to see this immense barrage of opportunities come my way. And I said, hold on, this is just a point, fraction of what I can do. And this is so powerful. I started getting offers like for people reaching out to me on LinkedIn saying, oh, hey, can you work with us? Like, do you have any time? I said, no, I have a full-time job. So I was doing a full-time job, and then I was freelancing over the weekends. And by the end of the year, I was exhausted.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So I just kind of had to take a call to see, if I wanted to do this full time or, if I wanted to continue with corporate. And the answer was pretty easy. So like I said, it was nothing like I had planned, or it wasn't in the pipeline. Or if you asked me like a year and a half ago, like you'd have your own agency focused on LinkedIn and personal branding, I'd be like, what? It was through my experience, and I saw how powerful it was. Everywhere I went, like every event, like, oh, hey, you're the LinkedIn girl. And I said, I'm just posting on LinkedIn like once a week. Oh, hey, we've seen you online. Or, hey, we've seen you at this event. Like, do you not get a rest? You're everywhere.
Okay.
And that was pretty powerful for me to see. And I said, okay, if it could work for me, damn well I could make it work for like other people.
That's true. So that's so interesting. So the LinkedIn part I get, but it's the event side that I find interesting.
Yeah.
So when let's say I came to you and I'm like, okay, Nehha, I want to work on my personal brand, whatever. We have the link. There's a whole conversation about LinkedIn we're going to get into. But on the event side, for example, where do you see more value? Putting more effort, if I was putting more of my time and effort into being active on LinkedIn and posting and engaging, or going to these networking events? Because the problem with these networking events, yes, you might meet a lot of people, but it's very surface level. There's no depth to those interactions. At least there on that night, out of, let's say you meet 30 people, you might have a really, good conversation with, like, let's say 3, 4. And then after that, you can start to build those relationships on, like, LinkedIn and so on. So I'm curious, online, offline, what are your thoughts when it comes to personal branding?
That's a really good question. I feel it's a mix of both, because at the end, we still need human connection.
True.
And especially in this region, the way it works, everybody wants to meet you for coffee, Habibi. Let's, come meet my kids, come have lunch, come meet me for coffee.
Very
when
true.
you're coming to our office. So this is the way the region operates here. So I feel you just can't be 100% online, and you just can't be 100% offline.
Yeah.
I've met some amazing creators, big creators from LinkedIn from all over the world. I was traveling to New York or wherever else I was traveling. And we've taken the connection, like talking on LinkedIn, to meeting in person and going out for dinner. And that was so, so powerful. And in terms of like networking events, it's again like how you want to position yourself. If you are a CEO or a thought leader, or if you're in an important business owner, then to see you on stage, to share your insights, to share your leadership value, obviously that makes more sense. But also it's a lot about like probability, right? If you attend like 100 events, what are the chances of you meeting the right people and finding your future clients?
True.
So it's just about, it's like how you go to the gym, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I want to, I don't know, lose 10 kgs. I'll go to the gym, 7 days a week. I want to just lose 1 kg. I just want to just go to the gym for the heck of going. Okay, I'll just go like once or twice a week. So it's like the number of reps that you put in, which is
facts.
yeah.
I love that analogy. And look, you're right. I think one of the things I've learned also, so my background is in sales, and you have a sales background too. You realize in sales that you need like that funnel, and it's a numbers game. And kind of like what you said,
game.
You have to go to these 100 events to meet those like 50 people you might want to work with, to get to that like 20 that you really had a good connection with, to get like maybe 10 or 5 clients, for example. So there's a quality aspect for sure, but I think one of the areas, even myself included, that I've maybe neglected across my business and so on is the volume side. And I think because that's the easiest one to fix, I think, compared to, because then you need volume, and then you can be like, all right, now we have the volume set up, now it's about quality. Or should we be focusing more on, because as Gary Vee says, he's like post, and then, but quality is you have to keep quality in mind. But if you don't have the volume, you don't know what's working, what's not working. You don't have the data to sit back in like 2-3 months and be like, all right, this is what did well. Why did it do well? Was it the camera, the position, the hashtag, the content? What was it? So, yeah.
So I agree with Gary Vee and Ryan Serhant as well, like on the same, the same thought process that, you have to put in the reps. You have to put in you have to have volume.
Yeah.
And only then, once you, test, you can go to 100 events. But at the end, you're going to be like, okay, this event was really good for me, and I'll double down on this. Like for the next 2 years, or this event was, it wasn't okay, so I'm not going to go to it next year.
Yeah.
But it's only when you do that, when you put the reps in, when you have that kind of volume, do you know like what's working and what's not working, offline and online. And it's same with clients as well. Like when you start a business, at first you want to kind of cater to everybody.
Absolutely.
And then you're like, oh, okay, actually no, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
You kind of niche down. Right?
No, 100%. And
so,
on the client side, you're it's a catch-22, because if you're alone and you're the business owner, you want as many clients as possible. But at the same time, what you realize with the time, at least what I realized is, okay, the money would be good, but the headache that is going to come for that money with working with these people,
it's not worth it.
Maybe it's not worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll use that time or that more clarity of headspace to do better for my clients and find other people that I want to work with. Have you found that in your experience over the past year?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So far, I've never lost a client.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
But I sure as hell have fired clients.
And I think one thing is, managing clients' expectations, especially in this region, especially when it comes to marketing activities. It's like, we launched a campaign, we got 2 million, let's say, impressions. Why don't we have sales or this or that? It's just very, I have a big, what's the word? Ick, call it, towards, how marketing is done and the agency client relationships that I've seen in this part of the world. We had the chief marketing officer for Tim Hortons on the AUD podcast that's coming out in like a week. And a lot of our conversation was about client versus agency. And because everyone I know, most of my friends, my wife included, has been on agencies for years.
Yeah.
So I know all.
Does she have any hair left?
Well, mashallah, she's got a full, beautiful head of curly hair somehow. I'm sure the mental wear is a lot more significant for her. But yeah, I think there's what I took away from that conversation is there's a disconnect in understanding between client to agency and agency to client. So I'm curious because you've been in agency before, and now you're your own agency now, so it is a little bit different. So how do you, I guess, manage this? What have you taken from that experience? You're like, okay, if I had my own agency, which you do now, this is how I'd want to work with clients.
I generally think that things are, again, like coming back to the Middle East, I feel we move very quickly.
Yeah.
If you had to like work in Spain or you had to work in Milan, we have like 1 hour lunch. Who has a 1 hour lunch break?
And siesta and everything.
Siesta and because I've worked with so many different nationalities and I've traveled the world, they don't have the same pace of doing business as we do. And I've just accepted that. I just know that we move at a very different speed to the rest of the world. And if you can't adapt, you're just going to be left behind.
Yeah, that's true.
Either you adapt to the life around you, or either you can, masalama, ship out.
Yeah. No, that's, I think you talking about the pace is, I guess, maybe something that you neglect, but you've also worked in many different parts of the world. So you've been exposed to a lot more different types of work cultures and pace and so on. So when I was in Amsterdam, so what I loved about Amsterdam was, unlike here, even as an Arab, I find this annoying. You know how it comes here, you have to, the meeting starts, let's say at 11. Until 11:30, 11:45, you're talking about family and coffee and this, and I traveled here, and just, I look at it as a waste of time, but I know this is how the culture is here. But what I loved there was, not only are they super, so blunt, you're going to know how they feel instantly, which I liked. And it was 9, the meeting starts, great. 9:01, we're in the meeting. We are already discussing what we are here to discuss. Which I like. I love that there. I think personally just worked with my personality. But yeah, the culture thing is an area I don't think I've given enough attention to.
Yeah. I actually at some point I had left Dubai and moved to Bali for 3 months.
Well, that's a different pace entirely.
That is a different pace and a different way of life for sure. So that made me realize everybody has a choice, right? It's the choice that you want to make.
Sure.
You can work remotely from Bali if that's the kind of life you want, or you can stay here and hustle and make use of the immense number of opportunities that this region offers. And this is the time to be here.
100%. Especially now with fintech and AI and Web3 and crypto, they have the UAE, and I think the region has positioned itself very strongly as the new hub for this globally, not just within the region. And so just wanted to come back to the personal branding aspect for a second, because this is a key point I wanted to get into. Authenticity. Now, to build a personal brand, I need to be authentic, and because authenticity literally means personal, being myself. But, and this is kind of transitioned us on to the LinkedIn conversation, which I have so many questions about. Because LinkedIn, I'm very frustrated with LinkedIn. Okay, because, and before I say what I'm about to say, I'm 100% guilty of doing what I'm going to complain about right now. I've done it, and not long ago either. LinkedIn is a platform that is trying to make you engage in conversations, in the comments. That's what they want to drive conversations. That's what it's there for.
Social network.
Exactly.
Social.
Social, yeah, social, yeah. They want people to be active on it and to be talking. But what I've found is it's a game. And if you've been on it long enough, I think you can, like someone like you would understand maybe what I'm trying to say here. You can, okay, I'm going to try to break this down into parts. First of all, it's humble. LinkedIn should be rebranded as the humble brag platform, okay? LinkedIn is take a picture. Once upon a time, I was shit, and now I'm amazing, and this is what I learned. And I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, okay, fine. I'm sure you've had a journey. We've all had a journey, and so on. But it's not real. That's my 2 cents, okay? Because even if you're positioning that story in that way, you have your own business. I have my own business. You need to project yourself in a certain way, but the reality of what's happening at that moment is not really what I'm posting about. I might be posting that, but inside I'm like, dude, how am I going to get another client? Like, how am I going to pay bills? How are you going to do all these things? So I find it to be quite fake. That's
as compared to Instagram?
No. Instagram is...
Which is...
Instagram's a totally different story. And I don't think Instagram is real at all. But LinkedIn and the type of platform it is, that's what frustrates me about it. So what are your thoughts about what I have said? Because this is where I'm like, I don't think how true that is.
It's about how you want to say your story, right? Everybody has a different way of telling their story. And being authentic is not copying somebody. Being authentic is not being fake. Being authentic is having a point of view, having something to say. You love dogs, that's your point of view. You love baking, that's your point of view. You love your family, that's your point of view. Just portraying yourself as you are, the same person that you are online and offline. Right?
Okay.
So if you follow my LinkedIn content, you'll know that, okay, I'm also like into health and fitness.
Yep.
I'm a part of the 5 a.m. club. And that's just who I am offline. If you see me in person today, I look the same way as I
true.
hope.
Very on brand.
as I look on LinkedIn. So personal branding is not about, having 2 different characters online and offline.
Yeah.
It's about, if a lot of the times when I meet people offline as compared to, their link, I say, is that you? I mean, their profile picture is I don't know, when they were like in their teenage years, So it's exactly the same person you are online and offline. So if somebody had to meet you on LinkedIn, or somebody had to meet you at a party or, at dinner somewhere, they'd be like, oh yeah, you are the same person. As opposed to saying, who are you? You're completely different online. And that's actually how I got my first client, because when I met her, I said, you are so different to your LinkedIn content. Like, are you even the same person? Why is that? And we started to have this conversation, and I landed her as my client. So
Really?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. So if I've understood you correctly, being authentic is translating, and like looking at LinkedIn as an example, is translating who I am into the online world or the online platform. And so that, I guess you want to have this is a good point you mentioned, like a personal brand isn't just an online thing. It's your offline thing, when you meet people, how you do that. And that's an interesting point, because when people talk about personal brand, my brain naturally goes to your online presence, my online
Yeah.
personal brand. I think we neglect the offline part.
Everybody has a personal brand. Every single person. It's how you want to work on it. It's how you want to portray your image. It is your image at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Whether you want to ignore it or whether you want to build on it. It's your story to tell.
That's true. That's very true. So coming on to LinkedIn, I want to have a deep dive on like LinkedIn because so I've had a couple of years ago, I had the ex-CEO of LinkedIn for like the region. I had him on the podcast and he gave me so many.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. He was awesome. Shout out Guillaume if you're watching this. And he gave me so many like great insights on like the analytical side and how, you know, the SEO and your title and how it should look and like all these things. But LinkedIn has changed a lot over the last couple of years. Now, as you know, it almost starting to look, especially on the phone, it's like Instagram, it's like TikTok,
Yeah.
it's like Instagram videos are coming up. So one of the things that I've been trying to like figure out is now since the platform is changing and it's trying to push more video content now. But the essence of LinkedIn, as I watched a podcast with a guy called Chris Doe and Jazz Yasmin Alec.
Yeah.
So they were talking about LinkedIn and how it's changed and so
Yeah.
on. And they were like, look, video is popping up now and it's something to pay attention to. But the essence of the platform is still text-based. And that was such a, like for me, that was such a like wake-up call because the way I've seen LinkedIn over the last couple of years has been very image-heavy. You know, image plus, you know, text. So if I said to you, I'm like, Nehha, okay, I want to start, you know, ramping up my LinkedIn profile and building it and so on. Do I have to be hitting all these areas or does it make sense to put most focus into what LinkedIn actually is and dabble a bit in like the video and the image side?
It's just what works for you.
What works for you?
Yeah, what you can be consistent at every single day. If you can make 7 videos 7 days of the week, go for it. But if you can make 7 posts 7 days a week, go for it. Whatever comes easy for you and whatever your brand needs. At the end, it's not about posts or, you know, text or video, but it's how you want to tell your story. It's how you want to show up for the world.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah.
Because it's better to have content coming in consistently, building a community consistently, rather than, you know, having that burden of saying, oh, I need to do video or now I need to do text or having that kind of pressure on you, especially as somebody who's just beginning.
Yeah.
Of course, like if you're Gary Vee and have a team of 25 people, then then it's
You can be
different.
busting out left and right, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But at the end, it's what works for you and what works best for you.
So you said that when you started, like when all this LinkedIn stuff started happening for you a year ago, you were just posting like once a week.
Just once a week. Because,
Just once a week,
yeah,
okay.
Just once a week. And it was just as an experiment, to be
Yeah.
very honest.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, let me see what happens if I stick to it
Okay.
long enough, because I was listening to Gary Vee.
There you go, yeah.
I was listening to like Rand Serhant. I was listening to like Grant Cardone. And I was listening to all these like
Doing the
amazing,
rounds,
great
yeah.
people. And I said, okay, so kind of like will start following what they're saying. And let me see how I can change things.
Yeah. So when did you, I guess, like start ramping it up? You know, you're doing once a week as an experiment to test it out. As time has gone on now, it's been, let's say, a year or two. Do you have your own like formula now for, I'm going to post X amount of times, this type of, some will be image and text, some will be just text, some might be, you know, a video. Do you have now your own, in a way, content calendar for your LinkedIn? You do?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Because I have tested and tested and tested. I am so precise with metrics. I know what time exactly and what day exactly works for what person, and that's the kind of service that my clients have. So they know exactly like when to post, what to post. We have a big brand strategy, and I know most of the people who are ghostwriting and doing LinkedIn content are not doing strategy the way I'm doing strategy. So when you work with me, you work with, first of all, having your own detailed, in-depth brand strategy, which includes your content pillars, which includes, your posting times, which includes your content buckets. And then from there, we move forward. So yes, I post 3 times a week. I post on certain days. I post on certain times. I know how to post because there's a science to it. Engaging,
Yeah.
commenting.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, it's you can go down a rabbit
I
hole
know.
with LinkedIn.
If you'd allow me, I'd like to dive into that rabbit hole just a little
Yeah.
bit because I think so. Everyone talks about, from the research I've done, is the importance of, like you said, showing up. Commenting and engaging is massive. That's a really, really big element too. The type of post you're doing, the time as well. But I'm curious in your experience now because, mashallah, you've built your LinkedIn like following I'd say quite quickly compared to a lot of people.
Quite quickly. I'm actually #1 in UAE right now.
Really?
Yeah.
No
For
way.
branding and positioning. Yeah. Thank you.
Well done. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what have you learned in this process of building your LinkedIn following that people aren't talking about? Because I've heard everything that everyone's talking about. I'd love to hear from someone who's sit with someone who's actually done it themselves. Is there a learning or an area that we're not paying enough attention to, in your opinion?
It is a science. Social media is a science. It's not just, randomly posting, content. There is a methodology, for it. There is a way things are done, and they're done and is done. And Gary Vee actually talks about it as well. I mean, he will test to the minute on what's performing and what's not performing. So I think there's a lot of misconceptions, especially when why you price this way? We can just hire somebody, we can just hire an intern to do this, but it's not going to work. Because there is a science. When you make a post, your hook, your body, your call to action, the way you write the post, is it skimmable? Does it have white spaces? Is it having the right messaging? Is it true to what you're saying? There's so many things that take place. It's not as simple as it seems.
Yeah.
It really is not.
No, that part is so true, honestly, Neha, because after reading that book, I didn't know how much effort it took. I had a new appreciation for content creators. I'm like, the guys who have done it and who have made it and are there now. Number one, I didn't realize how much work it took just in the production side. Forget the next level of because it's not enough to just produce content anymore. There's a whole science, kind of like what you said now, around the hook. Whole science in those first 2 lines that you see on my LinkedIn post. Do people want to click see more? Call to action at the end, all these things, and I'm just sitting man, I've just started to get my feet going, and now I have to dive into this whole new world of science. So one of the big misconceptions that you talk about, that you mentioned, was having a methodology, and there is a science to this. You touched on just briefly posting times. Now, is there an optimal posting time for you that's different for me? Or is there just an optimal posting time, let's say, for people in this region? My guess is, from what I've heard, you can tell me if I'm wrong, or you cannot tell me also. I think 12:30 p.m. seems to be the best time, because I've tested, I never post in the evening because I know no one's going to see anything. Weekends, depends what you do. But for me, between 12:30 to 1:30, that seems to have been, for me, my best time. So I'm curious if it's a general thing or it's very person dependent.
It's personal because it depends on where your audience is based. Let's say you were based in Amsterdam and most of your LinkedIn audience is European, then that's why 12:30 is working for you. But if you're somebody like me and all my audience is from the Middle East, most of it, then I work at a different timeline.
Okay. Thank you so much for this, because I like speaking to experts about these things, because you have the answer to the next question, but a lot of people don't ask that next question. For me, it was just what time do I post? I didn't think about, but where's the audience, because that's going to affect the post time and so on. And when it comes to comments and engaging and so on, again, you tell me your thoughts. I have my own opinion. It's almost, I don't like to be controversial. That's not my goal. But I like to ask the other side of the coin question. But LinkedIn, from my perspective, from my experience on LinkedIn, is a very positive hype train. Oh, love this, believe in yourself, and you are, wow, this is the greatest lesson. And then you see the comments like, yeah, great, 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 great. It's rare, or I don't see it maybe as often as I would like to, of someone being like, you know what? Nope, I don't like this. I don't agree with this. See, this is where the pull. I think I have an internal struggle, maybe personally, on LinkedIn, because it's I want to be this, but there's also a game. So it's like, how do I bring more elements of this while still playing that game and putting out the brand or image that I'm trying to.
So from my experience,
Yeah.
LinkedIn is a very strict platform. You just can't get away with, spamming people,
Sure.
with having like negative comments. If you read the rules and regulations for LinkedIn, there are quite a few. And LinkedIn will ban you, and LinkedIn will take your account away if you're spamming people in terms of adding a lot more connections. They see that suspicious activity. They see that you're commenting on things that are not according to the platform. This is, again, like, I think a lot of people are not aware of this.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
This is brand new to me.
Yes, exactly. It's happened to me. I got my account got restricted. That's a topic for another time. But,
Sure.
But yes, they're fiercely protective on the kind of language and the kind of tone that you use on LinkedIn. And I think it's a professional platform, right? So
Of course.
there is a certain way of doing things, and there is a certain
Yes.
voice and tone that you need to maintain on the platform as compared to, I don't know, TikTok. Maybe.
Yeah, no, of course. I had no idea. You just blew my mind. Okay, because now that makes me think differently about it. Because now the question I think in my head is either the platform is pushing you to speak and act in a more positive, let's say, light a way or a tone, or that's just the way to win on LinkedIn. Being positive, and it's not about. My goal is not to be negative, but my goal is I like to challenge, because when you challenge, that's where I think you get more insights. That's all. But there is a way to do it, and like you said, It is a professional platform, so that's something you have to keep in mind. So let's say I came to him like, Nehha, all right, I want to work on my personal brand. I want to do it on. Before I get into that question, actually, why was LinkedIn the platform that you decided like, this is where I'm gonna, focus my efforts?
Again, by accident.
Really? Oh, okay. I thought it was very conscious effort.
It wasn't, I said, I just tried it as an experiment, and it just took off. It wasn't my intention. Okay, I'm going to start a business based around LinkedIn and personal branding. It was just because I was working in corporate, and actually my boss sat behind me, so there's no way I could start posting on Instagram. So I just started posting. So obviously
awesome.
LinkedIn was very appropriate.
I'm here, I'm professional right now. Yeah.
LinkedIn seemed very appropriate. And I started posting on the company page as well, and I felt I just had a knack for it. That's it. I just felt I was very good at it.
Did you enjoy it more than, I guess, because in the past you told me you built your like social media presence and stuff with like Instagram and so on. It sounds like LinkedIn just resonated with you. The way it works resonates with you more.
It did, especially because I've always worked in B2B. So,
there you go. Yeah. Of course. That makes a lot of sense.
It became easier. And plus, I've worked with a lot of like luxury brands. I've worked with a lot of design houses, a lot of architecture. And at the end, it's not just about posting content, but at the end, the content has to translate into sales.
Yeah,
it has to. I mean, there's an end goal to it.
Absolutely.
Which I thought wasn't the case with Instagram, and LinkedIn had better results because I got a lot of my clients from LinkedIn. So.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on, I just thought of this, LinkedIn ads. So I've run some before.
How did it work out for you? I'm curious to know.
Honestly, not great.
Yeah.
Compared to other platforms, I think that it was the most expensive to run. And yeah, it was a fail. I'd consider a failed campaign completely. I'm sure this happens to you on LinkedIn too. And I was speaking to a previous guest on my podcast about this. The amount of in-mails I get, Nehha, that have absolutely nothing to do. I'm so far from the person this is for. It frustrates. I'm like, I just see. I'm like, this is just money wasted, you know. So what are your thoughts on like LinkedIn ads? Have you had a different experience with it? Is that something that you think about when working with, like you advise clients to maybe test out? What are your thoughts?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Because the organic reach for LinkedIn is there are millions of people on LinkedIn, but only 1% are producing content. And only 1%
Really?
are producing, less than 1% producing content, less than 1% producing content, engaging, commenting, liking, and building a community and doing it right. So
That's crazy to
LinkedIn,
me.
if you are good with LinkedIn content, it will push your content. So I don't understand the need for ads, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, fair enough. That makes, I can't argue with that, but that's crazy that statistic is what it is, because when I go on LinkedIn, I'm active, but like I feel like I'm slacking here. Like people or maybe it's just the people I'm connected with are just, everyone seems to be active like consistently, but maybe it's just
You have a lot of lurkers. A lot of my clients have found that I haven't seen them commenting or liking my posts. They've just like been lurking in the background. I call them lurkers. So.
Okay. So just to round off our LinkedIn conversation, and thank you for sharing all this, because it's really, really useful. LinkedIn is such an important platform. So 2 questions. First of all, if I came to you, I'm like, Nehha, all right, I need help with my LinkedIn. I want to grow my following and do it quickly. I don't need a step-by-step thing, but what are maybe 3 key points that I need to be paying attention to I know there's a lot more depth into it, but these 3 things are the things I should be focusing on consistently to start moving myself, in that direction.
So number 1, it's not about your following at all.
Okay.
It's about the value that you provide, right? It's about the impact that you have. So I don't believe in vanity metrics. I mean, a lot of people do. But at the end, it's how are you communicating your purpose? How are you adding value? It's not about taking, but it's about giving.
Yeah.
In terms of technical things, of course, like your profile needs to be optimized, have like a good banner, a good profile picture, have a good about section, because at the end, it's your landing page.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the first impression that you have.
Yeah.
A lot of times I see people with like no banners or like inappropriate profile pictures with a drink in their hand, or with their grandma, and she's cute, but not on LinkedIn.
Fair. Okay.
That's number 1. Number 2 is, of course, like adding connections and engaging every day. So if you're in LinkedIn and you only have like 15 connections, then you have a problem. So the point is to also connect with the relevant people in your industry. Example, you like to work with coaches, or you work with universities. It's connecting with your target audience in those niches. And communicating with them every single day. And number 3 is, of course, producing content. Even if you can't do it 3 times a week, do it once. Do it once a month. Do it once a week. But you can't walk. You can't walk, crawl.
Yeah.
But just move.
Yeah. Just
build
move.
a presence.
No, absolutely. And so this is what happens to me sometimes. Maybe you can tell me. This is just what I feel sometimes. Because everything I do is podcast related, I could easily spam LinkedIn with videos every single day. I try to limit, because I don't want to, although the content that I would put out is a valuable clip from the episode, I'm also conscious, like, I just don't want to spam you with all that. Or maybe I just, sometimes like maybe I just should. I don't know. Maybe it's an insecurity and like, people get bored. I don't know. So what advice would you have to, I guess, where my head's at when it comes to that?
So it's about, there's so many people. When I met you, I was like, okay, you should be actually posting about starting a business. about what kind of lessons have you learned from podcasting, some of the lessons that you've learned from the people that you've interviewed. I'd be curious to know, like, what kind of cool equipment is this? Like, where do you get it from? There's so many different things that you can talk about, not just posting video clips.
Okay,
I'd like to know the real
Okay,
you. You have
interesting.
such a beautiful home. Do you have a dog? Like, how long have you been married to your wife? Like, do you have kids? There's so many different aspects of your personality that you can talk about
Interesting.
rather than just posting video clips.
Well, thank you.
Which are valuable.
No, of course, of course. But first of all, thank you for that feedback. I do appreciate it. Again, this is why I love doing, this show, because I get to learn from amazing people who are experts in all these different fields. So one thing I realized on LinkedIn, I don't know if you've noticed this. So my younger sister, she's 20. I've noticed even their generation, because LinkedIn for that generation has, once upon a time, there would be like, why the hell would I have a link in LinkedIn? What's the point? And now I've seen, her friends, they're university, and they're in their second, third year of university. They're starting to be active on LinkedIn. So it seems like even the younger generation is starting to realize, like, oh, this is probably more important than just my Snapchat to my friends in terms of effort. Have you seen a lot more younger people coming onto the platform?
Yes, absolutely. Because there are also a lot of young people who are business owners.
True.
Who are content creators in different platforms. I know a lot of content creators from TikTok who are now very good with LinkedIn. And they just talk about, winning some of their biggest clients from the platform. So I feel there's a lot of awareness now on how to use LinkedIn, how to use LinkedIn right. And if you've been a social media manager for TikTok or, for Instagram or for Twitter, I don't think it should be that difficult for you to...
The skills are transferable.
The skills are transferable, but it still needs a lot of work.
Yeah. One of the things, Nehha, I took from Gary's book, besides the whole, the content science, there was also, I'm like, okay, there's content science, already have a headache reading this. Now there's a platform science too that I have to keep up with consistently. I'm like, oh, bro. I don't know if I'm cut up for this. Yeah, I know. That's the thing. And listening to what you were saying, even through our conversation, there's a science to it, not just a science of the content for the of how to do it, but then a science of how the platform works, what are the techniques, the hashtags, all these things. And it's so hard to stay on top of. To round off our personal branding discussion, if I came to you and Nehha, I want to work on my personal brand. Now, you've talked today about the authenticity. You've talked about delivering value. Even just now, you said the advice you gave me of showing different other areas of your life and your personality. If I want to position myself in a certain way, but that's not truly who I am, do you think people will be able to see through that?
Yes. People can smell bullshit a mile away. Like I said, your vibe attracts your tribe.
Your vibe attracts your tribe. Yeah. What kind of mindset should I be having when I'm thinking about my personal brand? What are, I guess, maybe the pillars I should be thinking about? Okay, these are the foundations of Khalid's personal brand or Nehha's personal brand. What's the mindset behind it?
I think the most important thing, like I said earlier, is, can I pull this off for the rest of my life?
That's
or at least for the next few years,
Yeah.
And how do I want to grow from here on?
Yeah.
For me, the next step would probably be YouTube or, consistent newsletters. So LinkedIn would just be the first step, I would say, and I would advise not to put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
You got to kind of diversify also to build your business, to build your thought leadership.
Of course.
But everybody has a starting point. Where do you start?
Yeah. No, that's honestly what you said there about can you do this? Could you live with yourself doing this forever? I think that's the metric.
Yeah.
And that's the question to ask yourself, honestly. And that will give you, because if the answer is no, then that's not the right, the right path to go down. Nehha, just to round off our conversation today, so I know you're part of the 5 a.m. club. I am not part of the 5 a.m. club, but I am part of the morning routine club. Okay. So I've seen, and this I've been doing it now maybe a year and a half, and listening to your experience and how it changed your life and the impact it had. How has that? Because I also feel I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this as an entrepreneur or as a solopreneur, whatever you want to call it. I feel it's the ultimate personal development arena because not only are you forced to wear all the hats that you would wear in a single business, also as a person, it's like a mirror to everything I'm good at, everything I'm bad at, my failures, my mistakes, and so on. So that's why you see the most successful ones globally typically have some type of routine that helps them, keep learning, stay in check, manage their emotions, stress, like all those kind of things. So I'm curious, how has your routine impacted not just your personal life, but your business as well?
There's a separation between the inner world and outer world. Your outer world reflects your inner world. And if you are if you're at peace with yourself, if you have good health, you have a supportive network, it's just going to translate into like all areas of your life. And that doesn't come free, right? You still have to like make some sacrifices.
Of course.
I want a good body. Yes, I will go to the gym. I want to reverse my age. Okay, I will optimize like other areas of my life.
Yeah.
I will study biohacking. I'll carry all these like techniques. I'll meditate. There's so many different aspects. So, and it also depends on like how you define success, right? Mm-hmm. For me, success is having it all.
Yeah. Fair.
Right?
Fair.
Good health.
Yeah.
Wealth, and peace at the end of it.
Yeah. I love that you said that the outer is a reflection of your inner or outer is a reflection of your inner world. I can see for myself, and even just the way you talk about it, when you've been through that experience, because it's having it all is it's not the same as just losing weight.
Yeah.
For example, it's not like, okay, I want to lose 5 kilos. I'm going to I'm going to do this routine to hit my goal. But that, for me, that's step one. If you want to have it all, this is a day in, day out. This is your life now. There's no, again, we aim for 100%, but if you're hitting 90, you're doing fantastic.
I would agree.
You would agree. Nehha, I just have 2 more questions for you. These are questions I ask all my guests. So first, looking back at your life, either personally or professionally, if I ask you the question, what are you most proud of for yourself? What would you say?
Having the courage to do the things I wanted to do always.
And where does that courage come from?
Just a desire to make things happen, to live my purpose, and to tell my story the way it should be told. I never conformed to society's standards of, starting a business when I was, of a certain age, or buying a house, or getting married, or having children, or, the number of degrees I have, or how I've lived my life. I've lived my life on my own terms, and I'm so proud of it.
Yeah, I can I can see the smile. I respect that a lot. Again, from not just doing the things that you've wanted to do and the way you wanted to do them, also pushing back against the cultural expectations that you have in yours and I have in mine too is not easy, and don't always win those battles. But if I'm winning enough to make me happy and live, I don't feel like I'm restricted in that way, then I think I'm in a good place too. And from my last question, Nehha, what is the message you'd like everyone to take home with them today?
Don't be afraid to tell your story, whatever it might be. Tell it authentically to yourself and the world.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic way to round off the show. Nehha, I want to say, first of all, thank you so much for your time and for coming on the show today. Like I said, I've been following your content for a while, not just on the routine aspect, which I resonate with. LinkedIn is my best platform, so learning from you and the techniques and the tips. about marketing, about social media, and again, all the conversations I've been having recently just keep coming back to this point of telling your story authentically, which I think you do a fantastic job at. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It's really been a pleasure. If people want to reach out with you, connect with you, what's the best play?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. There you go, guys. We'll make sure to put the profile in the show notes and everything. Nehha, thank you so much.
Thank you.
To everyone listening, guys, please make sure to like, share, follow, and subscribe to the podcast. I hope it helps Pod on all channels. And as always, guys, hope it helps. Peace.
Bye.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Wow, you're amazing.
And that's another episode in the bag, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. All I'm trying to do is give back with this podcast. So if you walked away from this episode having learned something new, gained a new perspective, or you simply just enjoyed the episode, that means I've done my job. If you could please do me the small favor of hitting that subscribe button, it would really mean the world to me and would help me build the show and build the channel. And that's all I ask. Stay tuned for a lot more conversations, new topics, more exciting guests. But until then, and until next time, guys, hope it helps. Peace.